this computer. Right, everybody, welcome back to Big and Tiny Podcast. It's been about a month. We've been busy. It's been Christmas, etc. But anyway, we are back, and we'll be doing this weekly. So how you doing? It's been a month.
I'm all right.
Yeah, we
Same,
have spoke. We
same
have
shit,
spoken.
different day.
It's not like we haven't spoken in a month.
No, I mean, obviously, we have been speaking for all the times that we have done. We just haven't done it as a recording. But we did also do a YouTube video. So, caught up a lot on that side of things.
It's on the YouTube as well,
It
which
is
this
on
is on
YouTube.
too. Amazing. Oh, it was a good one though. I really enjoyed that one. Like even just
Mm.
watching it, not even the one obviously producing it, being involved. But it's a shame that Caden is off on in Dubai all the time now. I saw he did another shoot in Manchester with Christian the other day.
All right.
Christian was there like, I need a videographer, and he was there like, I'm here.
I am here. I'm here for one night only. So,
Mm.
please use me. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, we have done those kind of things. We've gone over what you're going to be doing potentially 10 weeks out, definitely 12 weeks out, and the kind of changes that we have done for yourself, which is
It's definitely now. I think it's definitely 10.5 weeks out,
it's
and
definitely ten and a
it's
half weeks out.
potentially 9.5 weeks out.
And a potential 9.5 weeks out. Okay. I'm just getting my dates mixed up because I'm not particularly looking at my calendar right now.
I don't care.
Fair enough. As long as I've got the correct dates, then we're all right.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so obviously we discussed those kind of things and discussed a very, very different approach that we're going to be using with you, one that we haven't used beforehand with yourself. But I know that you are going to react very well to it. And you are on your first high day,
Second high.
is second high day today. So, and what has your body weight done all week, putting you onto a 5 low and then a 2 high?
Dropped. I start the week at like 101, and now I'm at 99.5. And
Yeah.
that's even after yesterday's high day. So I'll see if it spikes tomorrow, which I expect it might do. But if it doesn't, then great. Get back to it.
Mm, yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah.
I don't expect it to spike. This is the whole point about putting you down, and this is what causes this myth and fallacy about over consuming foods for one day and people gaining a shit ton of fat. Now, the thing is that the way that we've brought you down and the way that we're going to be bringing you down more so, because obviously things are going to change the more and more we go down. Um, it's basically offsetting a metabolic twist that's going to be happening in your system. And this is the reason why we don't need protective measures. So things like thyroid drugs and things like additional lipolytics and that kind of thing. We can do quite a lot without all of these kind of things and only bring in the things that are necessary when you're closer to stage, when we just need to give you a little bit of a pep.
Mm.
Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes thyroid saves people, as in like thyroid drugs. It saves people.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why sometimes we have to use it. But the majority of the people abuse it. Hence the
Well,
reason why.
they don't even know they're abusing it though. They just think
No,
they
no.
think it's protocol. They think just stick it in, oh, and then it becomes replacement. Like that. It's not drug. It's not the same as anabolics. It's not the
No,
same.
it's not.
It just
It's an
downregulates
actual
your own
hormone.
function, but then it starts
Exactly.
downregulating itself. So yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Like I'm not even on clen yet.
No, no, no,
I'm
no.
what 3 and a little bit kilos off my weight cap, and
Hmm.
exactly like miles off. There's obviously a
Yeah.
lot. There's obviously more to come off, but because I don't use a lot of drugs, do we? I mean,
Yeah.
plenty of people can use lots of the drugs, but I just can't. Well, I don't even use growth, which is just the price for lots of people, but it just means there's not much in the way of water retention. So when I do lose weight, it's very apparent. Like
Yeah.
even in the last few days, it's coming off my face like crazy.
You will have the diet face very soon, whereas I still have moon face.
Mm. Mine's more, I need Botox face.
Yes, yeah, no. Well, you
I don't
get to
want
the
it though.
point, don't you? Whatever. But now I'm thinking that's going to be a hilarious photo, isn't it? As we always have those photos, you with prep face, me with moon face. I always have moon face. I always find, we did that little kind of like snippet at the end of the YouTube video, and I was like, don't compare men and women to being 12 weeks out and 12 weeks out. I always find that I get a fat face really quick in my off season.
Just how some people, that's just how it is for some people, isn't it?
You just get a fat face. It's just like I'd really like a fat ass as opposed to a fat face. Why am I going to have like a fat
That's
face?
what I've got.
Yeah, I know, but that's because you're a dick. You can just look at a booty builder and just like grow 3 inches worth of
To
abs.
be fair, I mean, some people. probably could do this no problem, but I'm doing like over 3.5 plates on that now, which I haven't seen many people do because they prefer to use a machine which is like the Nautilus, which you can put like fucking 7 or 8 plates on and just throw it around because you can.
Mm-mm.
Whereas the booty builder will just destroy your spine if you try and do that.
Yeah, exactly. The beat feel is hardcore as well.
It's really
Oh,
difficult.
it's really difficult, especially if you do it correctly.
Well,
Um,
obviously.
well, obviously, I think that's maybe what we should actually touch base on: people training correctly for the right reasons and what how their basis of programming is going. So, I've got a mentoring client who I do actually have in an hour. Um, it's his session at 3:30.
Quick one, a quick podcast.
A shout out to George. But one of his pieces of homework was to actually design an upper body session and then take a PT client through it because he's like a startup coach. He's competed and done all that kind of malarkey before, but he wants to actually start his own business. So he's doing the right thing and mentoring and starting from the ground up. So this was a piece of his homework. And part of it was obviously design this program, but explain the reasonings as to why you're using it and the placement of certain exercises, etc., etc. And then I want you to analyze your guy's PT. So it's a full on, it's a full on piece of homework that he had to achieve. And when I looked at it in terms of an upper body session, it was just basically stuff thrown together on a piece of paper.
What was it? A full upper body session?
Full upper body session. Yeah. Full upper body session. For somebody who's fairly new in the gym, been in the gym a couple of times, but fairly new. And when we look at having things like exercise order, exercise selection, there has to be a specific reason as to why we're going to do it. So for you, as an example, using the Nautilus for you, for your glute drive, is probably not going to be the best option. Using it for me, terrible option. Why? Because I'm fucking short.
Yeah, it's
And
not
so I
very
literally
small.
it's not made for small people at all. I would probably go better with a barbell, but the setup of a barbell is a pain in the ass. It literally,
Well, it's
um,
more actually a pain in the head.
it is more a pain in the hip. Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, it has to be specific for a specific person. And what I'm seeing a lot of now is again the copy paste kind of send that over to the client, and it's just like, okay, you're going to do that upper body session, this upper body session, and then you'll follow it up with some legs or push pull legs up lower, blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. Nothing's ever actually designed for the person in mind anymore.
No,
So,
they're too busy sending out fucking 5 different new client starters a day when they get round to them, and then it's all just the same plan for each of them, and they see what works with who, and then if they need to change something, they don't because they're not looking at the trainer half the time. This is what, plenty of guys who don't have very good physiques, like they don't have a balanced physique or really well developed everywhere. They don't have the best training knowledge. And as such, a lot of people just say, oh, just lift heavy weights and you'll get bigger. And it's like, I've had plenty of lads come to me that have attempted to do that and get numerous joint problems from lifting like their coach does or a certain influencer does. And they may not understand that that certain influencer just doesn't talk about their niggles, the little bumps they've got, the problems they've got with doing certain movements, or the genuine pain they are always in. Uh,
mm,
and people don't think that it's a thing. And then when they start getting hurt, they're like, "Oh, I must just be not cut out for bodybuilding." It's like, nah, these guys just they don't want to train differently because they have an ego with how much they lift, and they just train through the pain, and eventually they get an injury and it lasts a really long time, and they just
mm.
ignore it. Just ignore it. Like no rehab, just all BPC and TV 500, and apparently that's the fix.
Oh yeah, because it's the Wolverine stack. It's the
Honestly,
Wolverine
I
stack.
get guys being like, "Oh, do you recommend this?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, it can be quite expensive if you use a lot of it for a long period of time." And they don't care.
Mm,
They're like, "Oh, should I take growth as well?" And they're like, "Why are you asking me about drugs rather than like how to rehab your muscles? Because that's
yeah.
free. Like all you have to do is go to a physio. They can sort of tell you what to do, or at least diagnose you. And then from
Mm.
there, it's a lot of work to get you back to pain free. It isn't just a case of take all this shit and hopefully your tendon issue might sort. But if it doesn't, you've spent all that money for no fucking reason."
It is. And the other issue in terms of doing that kind of thing is slowly but surely, as you get older and as you use growth, you are going to develop bony spurs. and bony spurs within the joint capsule. So if you take your shoulder joint as an example, you'll see a lot of people complain they'll start to have impingements. And it's because of the simple fact that they have got this bony spur. And every time the tendon crosses over into the joint, the bony
Which,
spur
yes.
knocks it. So as it knocks it, it just swells and swells and swells and swells. So they just think, right, I'm just going to have BPC 157, but I'm still going to have Cocoa Pops post workout because, that's the dumb thing that we do, not even thinking about inflammatory issues in terms of potassium and sodium, et cetera, and aldosterone hormone, which we will talk about afterwards because it's just actually come to my brain. But I have the same kind of thing in terms, you know what I'm like. I have the same kind of things in my hip. So I had to have a hip operation a little bit of a while ago because I'm basically fucking old. But I was born with a genetic abnormality where I have very, very deep hip sockets. So as I've got older and I've used my hips quite a lot in terms of lower limb training and that kind of thing, the tendon and the socket has got deeper. It's been carved out. The tendon gets trapped every time I walk, lift my knee up, do a squat, do a leg press, whatever. The tendon gets trapped inside and starts to fray. So I had to have a little bit of something put in, but within that time period, I cannot hip hinge. If I hip hinge, then everything gets trapped, as you can imagine, with that particular movement, and it's painful. So what I have to do is I have to manipulate my stance in order to create a hip hinge because I am not going to get the big ass that I want without hip hinging. So a very good thing in terms of doing this one, if you do have an impingement in your hip, is internally elevate your foot. So the heel elevations that you can use for the Smith squats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Turn it on a horizontal way and elevate your foot that way.
What do you mean,
And
raise the heel or raise the toe?
no, actually raise the ball of your foot.
So raise
So
it.
if you, not the toe, the ball of your foot. So it's almost your entire foot going in, but on a sideways angle. So this is the elevation. And then you put your foot on across this side. It automatically, because your foot is now like this, it's
Oh,
automatically opened your hip. Come on, mate.
I know, but the way you said that was like, that makes no fucking sense because who would think to turn their feet like that?
Because that's externally rotating your
I
hip
know,
bone.
but who would think to do that? Because that, like, just normally, if you saw somebody in the gym and you were completely unknown of that fact, you'd be like, what the fuck are they doing? So
Yeah,
that's my confusion.
yeah, for sure. But if it's just because you've never come across it before.
Yeah.
But I've had loads of people who have come up to me because I only do it on my right side. So if it's my right side, like if I'm doing a V stance RDL, for an example, I have to elevate the right foot, but I don't elevate the left foot because if I was to do that, I'd be shaking like a shitting dog all over the place because I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with the hip. So it's each individual kind of like programming from that side of things. But yeah, what was the whole point of that
We were
little
saying that
bit?
people don't get individualized programming anymore. They just get a thing sent to them, which is all the fucking same. I have to do it all the time. I have to change stuff with my clients around. If they, some guys can't handle any volume, and then some guys are like, I'm fine, keep going. Usually they're ex-athletes, so it's like, yeah, 3 sets, no problem.
Just do everything. 3 sets, drop set, rest pause. They add another fucking five if you feel like it, that kind of thing. But yeah, there are a lot of people as well. Oh, that's what we can actually talk about. This is a good one. There's a lot of bodybuilders who are hanging up the heels, hanging up the trunks, and going into a hybrid program because they think that it's the thing to do at the moment, and they think that all hybrid is bodybuilding and running 10K a week.
I think the advent of stuff like Hydrox has probably opened the way for that a bit more because CrossFit is imposing.
Mm.
It is Olympic weightlifting, swimming, and everything else in between.
Yeah, it's
It's
like super.
nuts. And those
Mm.
guys, then it's not a leisure activity. Like it's fucking serious. Whereas Hydrox seems to be anybody who wants
High
to get
rocks.
visual.
High rocks.
That is Hydrox, isn't it?
No, it's high rocks.
High Rocks or whatever. Fucking hell, who cares? It's a pyramid scheme. But anybody who wants to get back into the gym, that seems to be what it's like how F45 classes. It's just basically circuit training, isn't it? But it's timed and there's a certain, there's a competitive element to it, which is what people like. But yes, we're seeing a lot of people these days who have completely fucked themselves up with drugs going, I should probably do some cardio. That will fix me. It's like, no. So starting doing your hybrid training isn't going to make you suddenly a healthy person that's so much better than they used to be. And it's not going to reverse any side effects that you have generated from smashing a shitload of drugs, whether that is under your own fault or a coach pushing you, whatever it is, sadly, there isn't sort of a way out of that. There's a way to get away from bodybuilding if you need a little bit of time away from it, but it isn't the case of, oh well, I'm hanging up the heels and I'm never doing this again. But you're taking check-in pictures every single week. Just because they're not tense doesn't mean you're not fucking taking check-in pictures every week and still weighing your food. I'm not saying stop weighing your food. I'm just saying don't lie to yourself. Like
Yeah.
you're still doing everything you would do as a bodybuilder. Just you don't need to sit there and be like, I need to change my entire personality because I'm not going to compete anymore. Cool.
And then shit all over bodybuilding. Because
Yeah.
people do that. They leave bodybuilding and then they shit all over it and saying that it was the cause of their eating disorder. It was the cause of their poor relationship with everything. And, they hate their dog because of bodybuilding and et cetera, et cetera. It just seems a little bit daft, really. But no, when it comes to High Rocks programming, so I've got a number of High Rocks athletes on my books. And you know what? High Rocks is fucking hard. It's more than circuit training. If you want to actually coach or do High Rocks well, so I've got a master's High Rocks, and he's actually world champion. Who I went over to the States to do a High
Oh, the
Rocks.
guys that take it seriously, I wasn't poo-pooing that. I'm just saying the people that are like,
Yeah,
I'm do a high rocks next week, and they've done like 2 minutes of training.
yeah, absolutely. But that happens a lot. That happens a
Yeah,
lot, and
it's like
especially when
people of
you do
my
it
age that start running marathons, and they're like,
honestly.
just because you're a lazy cunt that drinks all the time doesn't mean you just can't run in 26 miles. It's not going to fix you.
Honestly, it's proper weird because what people don't understand is that the majority of high rocks is running, and running is hard. Like it's hard.
Yeah,
So when people say to me, oh, it's fine, I can do a 20-minute run, it's like, no, you can't. You actually
on
can't.
a treadmill, it's not the same.
But if you try and do a 20-minute run by keeping your heart rate between 120 and 130, that's fucking difficult, especially as a bodybuilder who does not run.
Yeah, 120 to 130 is a run as well. You actually have to go quite slowly because it will get up higher than that quicker.
Yeah, way
Yeah.
higher, way higher. So then you've got to taper it back, and then you've got to run, or sorry, then you've got to jog, then you've got to probably walk, then you've got to jog again to get it back up to keep it within those distances. And then what happens when you do that jog for 20 minutes or that run for 20 minutes? And then the next week I tell you to do it for 25. And then the next week I tell you to do it for 35. But then on the Friday, because you've done that on the Wednesday, I'm going to tell you to do sprints. And I'm going to not just like, your HIIT training kind of sprints, which is 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off. I'm going to make you run 700 meters and do that repeatedly. Yeah. This is how you train. You cannot just, it's like training for a marathon. You can't train for a marathon by running a
By
marathon.
running a marathon, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So
Well,
you've
maybe
got
not,
to,
obviously. Maybe not.
but
Yeah.
this is what people are doing. They're like, right, I'm going to go and smash high rocks and I'm going to do that. I'm going to start off on the ski erg. Have you tried a ski erg? It's
It's a skill.
fucking
I don't like
horrendous.
ski ergs at all. They're not very nice.
It is disgusting, like absolutely disgusting. The lactate that you build up in your lats because you should be using your lats by doing a ski erg.
Biceps as
It's
well.
so disgusting. Unless you're going to be doing like a tricep pushdown. You're not going to get fucking anywhere doing tricep pushdown. You use your lats. But the lactate that you build up from that is disgusting. And especially when you have to do endurance training on that. So you imagine that skiers, but you have to do an endurance engine work for 30, 40 minutes, just doing skiers for 40 minutes.
I mean, I used to do an hour on a rowing machine like twice a week. So, and
Mm.
that was with all my other training as well when I was a rower. So, yeah, when we discuss bodybuilders who want to become actual athletes, I'm there like, you've never felt sick for half an hour and had to continue training, or you've never literally been tasting blood while you
Yeah.
train. Like you haven't even come close. You've never been delirious whilst doing a leg press set. Like it finishes when it finishes, muscular failure. This is way beyond muscular failure. This is anaerobic work, and it fucking hurts.
It's horrid. It is horrid. And what I have found that's very, very common now is people going, oh, I'm hybrid because I'm doing 4 weight sessions a week and I'm doing 10K runs a week. It's like, that's not a hybrid. That's bodybuilding and cardio. Obviously, we know this. It's what everybody fucking does. You've just exchanged the elliptical for a run, or the bike for a run. That's all you've basically done.
You're just
But
doing
when
upper
people
lower and more cardio than you used to do. That's what you
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, that's all it is. But when people actually get a hybrid program, so like I'll put a hybrid program together for somebody who's been a bodybuilder and then they go in to do this hybrid program. And they'll probably do maybe 10 sets max in terms of weight training, and then they'll have in the first week, as an example, a 20-minute AMRAP. right? Which is as many rounds as possible within 20. You're choosing four exercises, but obviously they're going to be more cardio-based exercises. And they'll turn around to me and they'll be like, I couldn't do it. I literally had nothing left. And the problem is because they're so used to, as a bodybuilder, full on sending it and going to complete failure, that when they do those 10 sets, which are just not, a body part or something along those lines, getting in to do another 20 minutes of an AMRAP full on,
Yeah.
you just can't do it, because you underestimate what is actually needed to be a hybrid athlete.
I think as well, you have the cross problem as well when you bring an athlete into bodybuilding as you do a bodybuilder trying to turn them into an athlete. When you have an athlete trying to become a bodybuilder, the athlete is doing all they can to mitigate the pain. They don't want to push really hard into that because if you're an endurance athlete, you need to work with it. You need a sustainable, manageable level of pain to get across the line or whatever it is you're doing. You need to be able to utilize a certain heart rate and actually work with that, not just be at fucking 200 beats per minute for 30 seconds. So their ability to actually judge intensity, especially within a set, within a certain say a leg press or a hack squat, a lot of them fall really far short of it because they'll stop at pain. They'll go, this really fucking hurts right now. I need to stop because my body's telling me that it's bad. And that's a problem. You have to retrain athletes to go, you have to train to failure to the point where you don't move anymore. Some guys are good at it and get it straight away. Other guys are like, and generally they may not have been the best athlete to begin with because they can't push really fucking hard. But when we go from bodybuilders to trying to make them into athletes, unless you've been one before, trying to take somebody who has basically gone, I really like muscles, and got into the gym, trying to learn how to actually perform cardio for prolonged periods of time and basically changing the way your brain views a piece of cardio rather than just a case of, I've got to sit here and do this. And then, the minutes ticking by and all that sort of stuff. And actually being able to segment it to minute by minute and then, basically dissociate from the exercise, work with the pain, sit where you need to sit and just crack on with it. A lot of guys just really struggle with that.
Mm. And it also comes down to the nutrition point as well, because at least eating like a bodybuilder for a performance sport, can't do that.
No.
You cannot do that because you'll just basically bonk out and you'll just, tart yourself down so much. You've got to get
those guys don't realize how many calories you burn when you do aerobic and anaerobic work. Like if
in the
you're
same session.
Yeah, like if you're, if you're actually training for 45 minutes, not a Dorian Yates 45-minute leg session. I'm talking actually training heart rate elevated 150, 160, 45 minutes. You'll be dead after that. You'll be fucked. So yeah, it's like it's a big calorie demand. So it's one of those where people don't really realize how difficult this sort of shit is. And you know, it's interesting. I certainly think that if you are somebody that has decided that bodybuilding is done, really good idea to start actually doing a fairly decent amount of cardio work as well as going to those higher intensities and that sort of thing. And also, if you're doing that sort of work, it does allow you to sort of eat what you want as such. If you're able to train really fucking hard, there is an of you can have some more off-plan meals rather than a bodybuilder who is just like training for a look. You are training for a time, a weight, whatever it is, a placing. If you want to go through development of that sort of thing, then it's a different focus, and you do need your nutrition absolutely right. But again, you get to eat more food, so
you do get to eat more food. You can't be an arsehole with your food.
No.
But you do have to actually fuel yourself for performance. So all of your fasted cardio routines that you'll be doing, if you're doing high rocks, you cannot do fasted cardio with high rocks because high rocks it's all cardio. It's all cardio.
You'll probably just end up feeling very unwell very quickly.
Yeah, you'll just pass out and you just won't be able to recover at all. You just will not. And especially if you're going to start introducing runs, if you're going to start running, you have no idea how much of an impact that does have to your central nervous system. It's hardcore, like super hardcore. So yeah, just kind of take a note if you do want to swap and transition from bodybuilding to high rocks because it is the in thing now, and people are starting to call themselves hybrid trainers and that kind of stuff. At the same point, you're not. If you want to be a proper hybrid training, just DM me and I'll give you a hybrid training session. See if you can get fucking through it because you won't.
Or what you actually do is you buy a pair of Hoka trainers and then that's it. You're done.
Yeah. Put it on your Insta story. I am now.
I love these.
I'm now a hybrid athlete. But when it comes to nutrition for these kind of things as well, nutrition is, I mean, obviously, as you know, nutrition's my bag. So I can look at somebody and say, right, well, you're not eating enough. you need to eat more, or this is how we're going to protect your metabolism, or this is how we're going to get you shredded, or blah, blah, blah. And I always hit the nail on the head. So, because it's about understanding the human body. That's what I was going to talk to you about. I sent you a post earlier on today, or a story earlier on today on Instagram, and I was like, feeling bloated? This person is fucked. And I'm obviously not going to say, who the person was or anything like that. But I've been seeing this person pop up on this coach's story every single week when they do when they do their check-in. And every single week, she looks worse.
Highly distended, like it looks painful.
Yeah, 100% painful. And it's coming from right underneath her rib cage. And it's really distended. Now, the thing is, from here, this is what's known as true bloat, because you can still see the outline of her abdominal wall. And she's still very lean. So she's not actually gaining any positive muscle or any positive weight at this point, because she's not able to absorb any of the food that's going into her stomach. No, so my question is, realistically, I know what this problem is because I can look at somebody and go, that's what your problem is, because I've been doing this for a long time. But my question is, why has the coach not picked up on this, that every single week this client is looking worse and worse and worse? And why would you share it to your story?
Well, you know why? Because they haven't got a clue. They don't know what the problem is. And it's just a case of, for a lot of coaches, it's just advertising that they have a client.
So would
So
you want to advertise somebody who is like quite literally looking horrendous and
if
you know
you're
that there's
if
dysfunction going
you're
on?
laboring under the impression that you are in the process of helping them and that they will get better, then maybe you'll put it up there. But if it were me, I'd be like, fucking hell, let's get this person sorted. And then
Mm,
once I've done that, then I can post the side by sides and be like, wow, look at the difference. But
exactly.
people don't have the patience for that because obviously, like producing actual transformation posts takes time, and those are the things generally which, if you're looking to obviously gain more clients, that's the thing which may help a lot in garnering new clients because people love to see the end result. They don't like seeing the process. They can give a shit about the process.
Mm.
But yeah, I wouldn't be sharing that at all. And if it were me personally who was suffering with that sort of issue, I wouldn't share that photo of myself, and I would, hopefully once I got it fixed, I would be like, I had this problem, and this is how I solved it. I wouldn't be there like consistently like it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel a little bit bloated. No, 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 no. Sorry, girl, you're fucked. Right? This is not a feeling of bloat. This is not something that you should carry on doing. And guaranteed, the coach has prescribed her. I'm going to say prescribed her, advised her on her meal plan to take kimchi.
Yeah, because gut health, baby, but it'll just ferment more.
Or just make it worse.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
just make it worse. If you put fermented food on top of fermentation that's already occurring in your gut, you're literally just going to make matters worse.
Oh, speaking of this, well, kind of along this line, because I was going to say semaglutide. But there was a panorama on last night about semaglutide and also tier something with T, temp. Oh, I can't fucking remember the name of the thing.
Another one.
What?
Another one.
Yeah, but it's obviously semaglutide is the GLP-1 antagonist.
Yeah.
And obviously that slows down gut function. And when we talk about fermentation, then you've got the problem of obviously the poo fermenting inside you, and then that's the reason for feeling unwell, and then obviously not feeling hungry.
Mm.
This other one was another diabetes drug, as they love to call them. It could help diabetes. I mean, it just helps people fucking lose weight. Anyway, it was an insulin secretagogue. So,
Hmm.
and I was there like, bodybuilders definitely using this, and it's one of those things when they're listing off the number of side effects. The first one is you may end up with severe pancreatitis, and it was like,
Yeah.
please don't take this. But it was working for some people, and they were there like, oh, I don't even need to inject insulin anymore. It's like, well, you're still having to inject something which stimulates the effects because it's create your body is releasing the insulin. Obviously, before it wasn't, but it's one of those that stuff makes its way into bodybuilding, and people don't, they just view it as another form of semaglutide, not knowing the action of it, and a lot of people end up with bordering on pancreatitis from overdosing it. Even with, like, if you look at Ozempic and how much you should actually take and then how much people are taking, like the starting dose is 0.25 milligram a week, and people take 5 a week.
Yeah, to begin with.
Yeah, and you're there like, do you want to just not be able to like have a shit like ever? Because
They
Jesus,
don't
even
understand that, you see. They don't understand motility. And as in when I'm talking about gut motility and bowel motility, they don't understand how important motility is. If I was to tell you one of the most important things that you could have in order to help motility for your bowel is green banana flour, would you have ever thought about it? No, because you would
there
have
was
never.
such a thing as green banana flour.
There is such a thing as green banana flour, and realistically, what it does is it's a unfermentable food. So imagine your starch that you can basically cook your rice and then cool it. What happens to that particular starch if you were to cook it and then cool it down?
You have to tell me.
It becomes a resistant starch. So a
Right.
resistant starch is better for people who have got
On a
diabetes.
beret and mustache. Yeah,
Exactly.
price legitimates. Yeah.
Waves the flag, does all that kind of shit. But when you eat a resistant starch, it starts to break down, your metabolism starts to break down that particular starch and turns it into a short chain fatty acid or an SHFA. Now, the short chain fatty acids are really very beneficial for aiding metabolism, reducing your insulin sensitivity, or sorry, improving your insulin sensitivity, and eradicating all of the waste that's in your bowel, improving motility. So, but instead of eating a shitload of roughage all of the time, which obviously going to take a lot of time from that, one of the best things you can use is green banana flour. Now, the green banana
Because,
flour, pardon,
because
because it basically is a resistant starch. So you put it into your protein shakes, put it into,
it
whatever it
doesn't even
is.
need to convert. It just is that.
It is just that. It's a resistant starch. Yeah. So, like if you were to eat an underripe banana and then a ripe banana, the ripe banana is a hell of a lot more sweeter. It almost tastes sugary. So it's because it started to break itself down already. It started to go through the fermentation process, even though it is nice and sweet. So if you eat green bananas or slightly underripe bananas, you're going to have the benefit of it fermenting into a short chain fatty acid, which again
You're
is
gonna
very
get a
good.
load of people now going to the fucking supermarket being like, "Where are the greenest bananas?" and trying to
Yeah.
eat.
But again, they don't understand, the reasonings or the mechanisms behind it. They're just like, oh, Vicky's had to have this. My live that I did yesterday, I mentioned L-theanine for stress relief. I had about six people message me saying, where can I get L-theanine? It's like, do you actually need it?
Amazon.
Yeah. But do you actually need it? Just because
It's
I
like,
talk on a live doesn't mean that everybody needs it.
I don't know, it's like people are like, "Oh, I feel stressed, so I should take ashwagandha," and so they're like, "No, you should address the stress." It's not gonna just like new to you. It's not a fucking drug. Like it's not gonna remove your emotions like a fucking what they called SSRI. It's not gonna
Yeah.
do that. So
But,
like, come on.
but with ashwagandha as well, people are just relying on certain supplements. And for 99% of these people, they have to address the root cause, like you were just saying about it. Because, I mean, these supplements, they're very, very good, obviously. Ashwagandha has got good studies behind it, especially if it is the KSM 66 version brand. But it's an adaptogen. So what happens with an adaptogen?
It adapt.
You adapt to it. So if you adapt to it, you're going to have to cycle it. So if you actually adapt to that particular adaptogen, then what are you going to swap it out for? You have no
Stress.
idea because more stress. You have no idea because you've only ever researched, or you've only ever been told about KSM 66 ashwagandha. But you should be able to cycle certain things like that. You should be able to change your adaptogens, just like if you're having something to help motility. How many people have the exact same thing? And I'm not going to, like shit on them because I love Strong, but how many people will literally just have Digest Max all the time?
I have that
All
just
the
like this time. I have it all the time.
We have it all the time. Why? Because we don't cycle them, but your body will adapt to it. It'll become used to it. So why can't we swap out Digest Max, which is a blend of husks, but then use something else such as trifella or ginger root extract, or even just using the ginger root extract in a tea and then using magnesium biglycinate just as a swap out so your health actually is very good in terms of motility. But it's not. It's because like, oh, marketing, just have this all the time.
I
Because
saw a video earlier of a woman who was on TikTok and she hadn't had a shit in 6 days, and her husband bought her some, I think it was magnesium biglycinate water. And she downed the whole thing and it was like, oh my God.
to be
She's like,
fair,
I think
magnesium
I'm
biglycinate,
shit.
yeah, magnesium biglycinate on its own will not cause you to have a shit that terribly. Magnesium citrate will.
Sorry, that was
Um,
the citrate, not biglycinate.
It's the citrate, yeah. The biglycinate is the one where most people are deficient in. So the glycinate version is something that you should be having, and ideally, you should realistically be taking 1 milligram per kilo of body weight for it to have the most efficient effect. So instead of just buying your supplement and it goes, just take 1 tab a day. Well, actually, you might need more than that. You might need a little bit more. So for an example, I'm 58.7, no, 58.5 kilos at the moment. So realistically, I should be taking about 580 grams, no, 580 milligrams worth of magnesium. I take 600 milligrams because it's easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot. Like the pills
It is.
normally come in what, hundreds or 200s?
Yeah, about 200, but you can get 300 milligram ones.
Yeah, you can.
But it's way better because so many people are magnesium deficient, so many people are mineral based deficient. And why are we mineral deficient? Because the soil in our yeah, and the soil that we have been growing our natural foods in is really poor quality. It's terrible quality at the
Well, the
moment.
majority of food we get these days isn't from Britain. It's from various countries that are, you get some strawberries from fucking Egypt, don't you? Get them from wherever the fuck you would see in some British, unless it's the summertime. But yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
unless it's the summertime. But courgettes are grown in Spain. The soil and the
Courgette,
mineral content.
courgette.
A courgette or a zucchini for our American friends.
Why the fuck they call it that?
Well, it's just like calling an aubergine an eggplant. They call it an eggplant.
Just they say, I just don't get it because they're usually very literal. Who was like zucchini?
A
Some
zucchini.
Italian dude would have been like, name it after me.
But yeah, the mineral quality in our soils all over the world is just diminished at the moment. And that's the reason why so many people are mineral deficient, magnesium being one of them, potassium being another one, vitamin B's, obviously, I know that's not a mineral, but all of those kind of effects are there. And this is one of the reasons why we are consistently walking around with being bloated and having water retention and inflammation because we are so mineral deficient. Um, like that girl that I
The
was
thing
telling
is,
that we
well, most people for a lot of meals of the day don't really eat real food, do they? Like, the majority of normal people just eat processed shit and don't realize it's processed shit. And they don't obviously know the effects of eating that and how it'll reinforce itself and make you want to eat more of it.
Mm.
There's a reason they make them taste so yummy, it's so you eat more of them.
Well, it is. It's very good marketing as well. It is good marketing. But I do hate it, when I see people and they have your post-workout and it's my cereal. It's like, why?
Yeah,
Why
but then
are you having it?
they'll argue with you that it's quick acting carbs, bruv, so it
Yeah,
gets
but
stuck
what
in the body.
for?
They've also put no fats with it, and there's like whey protein for the protein powders. It's like you're having two incredibly processed things there, and post workouts, you're trying to feed your muscle directly with something that is just sugar and something that's highly refined. It's like you're not really getting any micronutrients in this meal at all. You're not really refueling it. You're just putting calories in your system and hoping that it gets partitioned correctly. There's a reason why a lot of physiques these days just look like fucking fridges rather than the Adonis-like physiques they used to be in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And those guys ate real fucking food
Oh, because they didn't have access to any of these kind of things either.
that fucking exist.
Exactly. But, then they're trying to have like 200 grams of Cocoa Pops or 200 grams of cream of rice or something, which is basically the exact same carbohydrate source, and then thinking why they feel bloated for like 2 or 3 hours afterwards. And
200
so, because
grams
you're
of
not
rice.
combining different carbohydrate sources. I mean, I'm sorry, I thought that this was common knowledge these days.
Not at
So
all.
if you
Not
want
even no, not even a little bit. Especially with male thinking, it's like more of the same. Yes,
I
easy.
just, I just don't get it, honestly. I mean, I know that I'm not like the most popular person in the planet or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that my knowledge is getting shared a little bit more these days. And we've talked about the combination of different kind of carbohydrate sources in order to train your gut to efficiently uptake it more. So instead of having 200 grams of cream of rice, exchange the carbohydrate sources, have 100 gram of cream of rice, but then also have 60 grams of oats, make it into like a mill powder, mix those two together because you've got two different types of carbohydrate sources at that point. Then you can add some fruit in, and you can even add in some fucking sucrose from a different source. But from there, you're not going to feel like you're bloated all the time,
But you
you
can
know.
just get that in 4 bagels, and that's easier.
fucking bagels, and then people are wondering why they have all of this distension and water retention from here. And that's what I was going to say about that girl that we were talking about who was posted on the stories with this massive distension. The problem is with her is that she's got an aldosterone hormone problem
Mm.
because it's just not functioning properly. So all of that around her stomach is water. You can see that it's water as opposed from actual bloat. So the aldosterone is not working efficiently, and that's because she's got a mineral deficiency, and more down to the aspect. It's not down to sodium. It's going to be down to potassium, vitamin Bs. Um, yeah.
So just for the people at home, just explain what the aldosterone problem is, because we can just say, oh, it's aldosterone, and it's a big word. People are going to be like, they'll just switch off. So what does that actually mean? It is true though. If you don't understand something, you're going to be like, and nobody's going to research that. So what does that actually mean if somebody is severely distended because they have an aldosterone problem?
Okay, so aldosterone, you've got two hormones in your body which basically control water balance, and that is aldosterone and ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. The two have to be in sync because if the two aren't in sync, one is too high, which is going to be aldosterone, and the other one is too low, which is going to be your antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone causes you to hold on to water. If your aldosterone hormone is not functioning efficiently down to a mineral depletion or a mineral imbalance, then your antidiuretic hormone is going to be high, meaning
Mhm.
that you're not going to be able to excrete the water from your body so much more than you need to. Hence the reason why you're going to be holding onto water, looking puffy, looking inflamed. And where do you hold water? All the
Stomach.
way around your midsection. Of course, you hold water around your midsection. And it's really plain to see because it's not like she's got an estrogen problem. It's not like she's gaining a load of fat because when you look at her side shot and she's got her arm obviously pointed out, her arm is still extremely small. It's skinny. It doesn't have like that jiggle to it or anything along those lines. It's all based around that midsection. And you can't tell me that it's hormonal bloat because hormonal bloat comes below the belly button. It does not come up from below the rib cage. So again, we can see here that this is all from an organ perspective. It's not going to be from a hormonal perspective, as in like menstrual cycle hormone.
Yeah. But who the fuck would have known that? This is the thing when you've got talk about nutrition, talk about needing to utilize different forms of carb sources, talk about an aldosterone response and this sort of stuff. People just brush it off because if you look shit, no one cares. No one cares what you do. So if you have people with these problems that are posting on Instagram and they're unaware that this is an issue, and even their coach is unaware that it's an issue, it doesn't matter as long as they've got the mystique of their other clients who are doing well and that sort of thing. Oh, they must be a good coach. But we've got this problem here, which is not fixable under the current knowledge, and it will just get left. It'll still get posted, but it'll get left. And if
Mm.
you're somebody with genuine health problems or concerns, and there's something that's, you're under a coach and you've got a problem and it's not going away, and they are not giving you the answers, you're going to have to look somewhere else because these guys won't try and research to help you. You are just a thorn in their side and you're a paycheck. So and they'll try and do their best by like coddling you and making sure that you're okay. And they'll be like, oh, but then you'll be like, oh, but they're such a good person. I don't want to leave you. So like, but they can't help you. You wouldn't stay with a doctor that couldn't diagnose you just because they were a nice guy. So
Mm.
it is it's a shame, but it's one of those where, as we've mentioned before, the reason why this person keeps getting posted and that's how it is because one, it's nice. You don't if you tag somebody in a post and they don't repost it, it's a bit like, and two, they're a client, they're paying. So
Mm.
it's one of those like we sadly live in an industry, work in an industry of pretense and egos, which is more and more apparent every day for me at the minute. And people aren't willing to admit that they don't know what the problem is or they need help because they
Mm.
want to be the all-knowing, omnipotent online coach that can do everything for you. And we know that everybody isn't omnipotent. So if you have a problem and you can clearly see that your client is in real shit, sort your act out and like ask someone for some fucking help because it
Exactly.
ain't
Yeah.
helping. Nobody's sitting there going, "Oh, I'm just going to ignore it."
Yeah. Oh, I'll just try this. I'll just add a different supplement, or we'll take fiber out, or we'll increase water. No, that's literally just doing things worse. So stop adding more shit in. One of the best things, if this person does listen to this podcast, which I'm kind of praying and hoping that she does, just fast for a day. Fast for a day, utilize things like dandelion tea, bone broth, orange juice. So obviously it keeps your energy up for that particular aspect. That is going to help you in the very, very first instance. Fast for a day, and then please send one of us a DM because might be able to actually sort you out so you have a flat stomach for your next check-in.
literally for the next check-in as well.
Yeah,
It won't
yeah,
take
yeah.
long. This is stuff which is very fixable very quickly.
Oh,
So
I can fix this shit in 3 days. Three
yeah,
days. Fix it.
so
In fact, I
it's
had
one of
one.
those.
He messaged me. He was having some terrible, terrible regurgitation, acid reflux, really terrible shit. I was like, it's cool. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do X, Y, Z, for blah, 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 and all the rest of it. 5 days later, he's like, mate, I feel fucking phenomenal. 5 days. 5 days.
Yeah,
And it's all of these things are very, very fixable if you know what they are. But you can't just kind of like throw shit at the wall and hope that it's going to stick.
no.
It's You've got to know what you're dealing with because you are dealing with people's health. And if you don't know what you're dealing with and you are throwing shit, then shame on you.
So I think
Um,
as well, there's very much a bury the head in the sand sort of culture, especially when it comes to like blood work.
yeah.
There's no wanting to sort of hold a client back and not go into a prep. If you've planned to do a prep and that client has already stated they want to do a prep, turning around to them and being like, we're not going to do it. One, it might, if they're a good client and you want them to get on stage, you're probably not going to want to do that. You should be like, fuck it, we'll deal with it when it's a problem. When it's really an issue. Like you see plenty of guys with severe HDL suppression that have been off cycle for 4 to 5 weeks, and they're like, oh, health phase is done. It's like, oh, that'll be fine. We'll just stick in a load of supplements. They're already on all those supplements, which is supposed to rebalance HDL and LDL, but they just leave it. And
Mm.
people, these kids who are doing this, even older guys, they don't realize that one steroid cycle probably ain't going to do too much damage unless it's outrageous. It's the prolonged abuse of steroids that result in lined arteries, that result in possibility of stroke. Everything from your hebocrit through to your fucking HDL and all these other things which are interlinked.
Mm.
You're going to end up with the internals of a fucking gout-ridden 50-year-old if you're not
Well,
careful.
without a functioning set of hormones, without a functioning thyroid, with adrenals that are obviously down through the floor, cortisol level that's continuously and chronically high. There's all of these things that are taken into effect, but it's all right. It's just test primo fucking halo. What else are people taking these days?
Oh, I
Everything.
had I had somebody on one of my posts the other day. It's like, oh, I can see you don't use a lot of drugs. Are you thinking about throwing some other stuff in, like Halo and Tren? I was like, Halo and Tren? Like, how angry do you want to be? And I was there like, I can't use a lot of testosterone because it aromatizes, and you're telling me to take Trenbolone. Like,
Yeah.
really no understanding of that compound, of how androgenic it is. And he was just like, oh, but yeah, I could understand that it raises progesterone. So like, yeah, it's still linked to estrogen, you fucking monk. Like, it's one of those. It's like just because you've raised progesterone doesn't mean that the other things that are also attached to that also are going to fuck up. Like, it's not going to like one thing changes and then nothing else does. It's just like he's now like, oh yeah, I
No.
notice like whenever I do that, I get a bit of gyno. So I'm like, yeah, fucking idiot. Why are you trying
Yeah.
to advise me of all people? Like, it's the same when kids are there. Like, have you tried doing this exercise? Yeah, I've tried them all.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of know what works for me. I know I made a comment about something to do with menopause the other day on somebody's post. Oh my God, the hatred that I got and one of them was like this bald-headed, specky little twat who had like 600 followers who basically nobody knows about. And he's like, so you're telling us that we have to listen to you and trust your anecdotal evidence, whereas we have loads of research on this. I'm like, dude, I made a fucking comment. What's the fucking hate? What is that all
Oh,
about? Why do
the
people just want
research,
to attack?
the research boys, I really enjoy. Like, if it's in a paper, then it's gospel. Learn to read
Oh,
the paper.
totally.
Learn to read the method because a lot of the time, especially for exercise science particularly, it's bullshit. And really, when it comes to drugs as well, a lot of the stuff in terms of the research, unless it's done on human trials, is generally bullshit.
Yeah, it's
Even
bullshit.
even like your anabolic androgenic scale is based on a rat model or a mice model. Which means that the androgenic or anabolic nature of a drug is rather different in a human being sometimes. Like nandrolone is considered to be the lowest level of androgenism in any drug. It's considered to be entirely anabolic. You can still get gyno from running nandrolone.
Of course you
So
can.
yeah, so you're there like, it's not all this stuff that's cooked up. You need the experience to go with it because you are operating in the fucking gray area, okay? You
Yeah,
need the
totally.
experience alongside some kind of scientific basis. And because it's generally immoral to put people on anabolic cycles and just test them for whatever occurs, we have to go off what people are doing outside of that in terms of just doing it to themselves to
Mm.
understand like a broad spectrum of what can occur. So the guys who are there, like all studies, that's the only thing I trust. Is like you're gonna have to learn to be a bit more flexible there because funnily enough, anecdotal evidence amounts to a consensus in terms of evidence.
Well, it's like what we were talking about before, wasn't it? Absence of evidence is not clearly evidence of absence.
No.
So, you've got to take these kind of things as they come along. Just because there isn't a research study that says this does this or this does not do that, doesn't mean that it cannot physically occur. There's
Well,
no evidence that the devil doesn't exist, but can you prove that he doesn't?
that's how religion works. You
Well, yeah,
can't tell me it doesn't, so it must be real.
exactly. Yeah. But this is a grey area. No, no, no. Yeah, okay.
Well,
Well,
what if God did exist, though?
that's the
Just think
subject for
about
another
it for a second. What if he made everything?
day.
Oh, I love cults. It's
We're
great.
going to have to wrap it up because I've got
Yeah,
mentor in 10
got the
minutes.
short one, so Vicky's got to get off. So I hope you've
Do
enjoyed that one. It's been a bit of a ADHD splitter, as it always is.
you
Uh,
like do
huh?
you like ADHD splurges?
Well, it's the best way to be. Who wants a fully formed, thought out fucking next by next podcast? This isn't the diary of a CEO or fucking Steve McFarlane. Loads of people are getting really annoyed with him now. It's like he sells absolute bollocks. Yeah. Anyway,
Right,
we'll see you in the next one, which will be we'll make sure we do one soon
indeed.
rather than another month off. All right. Okay, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.